I was starting at 30% body fat all over again, and I wanted to get down to 10% without any enhancements, lean, look amazing all year round, and actually know what you're doing. This is exactly how I would do it. Hi guys, my name is Michael Ballantine. I've coached over thousands of people to get in the best shape of their life, including myself, from over 20% to just under 10% body fat. I also have my degree in nutrition and food science, which has also helped me between that and my experience. The best ways to get to sub 10% body fat if I was starting from 30% body fat. Now, if this is you and finally weeks and months and years after feeling unhealthy, you finally want to make the best decision of your life to become leaner, happier, healthier, and it translating to other relationships in your life, your friend life, your family life, your relationships. Just picture this, weeks to months from now, not go through all your favorite brand stores just to find out that one specific size in your shirt so it looks somewhat decent on you. Being able to take off your shirt in public and feel comfortable about it all year round. Maybe even sometimes you feel like your partner doesn't find you physically attractive anymore. I'm gonna show you what not to do and what to do instead to make your dieting way easier with just simple and easy steps. Hold it accountable to yourself because you're the only person that's gonna be able to do that. I'm gonna show you the methods and you need to apply them properly, execute them, and just show up every single day with the discipline you need and make it happen. My philosophy in learning something new in your life, recognizing there is a problem and not ignoring it, and two, just taking the action to do it. I've been around so many people around my life say they're gonna do something, but never take the action. I think that's the most important part. If you know everything, if you know how to do it, the only real thing that's holding you back is yourself, and that's why I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do and how to execute it. I'm gonna make this as realistic as I can with a time frame, but you also have to fine tune it for yourself to make sure that it works perfectly for you and your lifestyle. So let's jump into 8 of the most common mistakes I've seen individuals make from going from 30% body fat all the way down to 10% body fat. And what we're gonna do this time around is when we go from 30% to 10% body fat, we're gonna work smarter. We're not gonna work harder. All right, so step 1, we're going to stop jumping onto trends that keep coming back and forth. All right, this first step is very important because we've seen this around on social media, maybe even at the gym, maybe your neighbor, your best friend, your family members, and they say they just jumped onto it and they lost amount of weight. You immediately want to make the decision to do the same thing. But the problem is, majority of the time, they don't know why they lost the weight. They just recognize the diet as, I did a diet, it worked for me, so it must work for everybody else, or the ideology of why it worked for them. So some trends would include the keto diet. The keto diet is basically eliminating carbohydrates. So carbohydrates could include fruit, whole grains, such as bread, rice, potatoes. So because we're reducing the amount of carbohydrates in our diet, we're going to eat less calories. And when we eat less calories, we're going to lose weight. Let's do the next trend diet. Carnivore diet basically implies that majority of your food is not ultra processed, that you're also reducing carbs to an extent. Ultra processed foods are highly palatable, which makes it easier to consume and they're more calorically dense. If you take them out of your diet, you're gonna end up reducing your calories just as much. So same thing applies, you guys. You're reducing your carbs in ultra processed food, so you're just doing the same thing the keto diet did. You're reducing some type of calories. Doesn't matter if it's coming from the carbs or the ultra processed food, because you're eliminating a macronutrient or food group, you're just eliminating calories in general. What about fasting? You're only supposed to eat from a certain amount of hours. So if you normally eat from 8 in the morning till 9 p.m., and now the new fasting diet has you eating from anywhere from 12 to 6 p.m., you just reduce the amount of time you have to eat. So because you have less time, you're not gonna eat as much food volume because probably it's gonna give you stomach discomfort because of all that food volume in at once. And sometimes maybe if you're at work or you're with your family, your friends, between 12 to 6 p.m. to eat, sometimes time just moves faster than we think it is, and maybe it's already 7 o'clock, so now you have to stop eating regardless. Same thing applies. Calories down because you have no time to eat, or you're just reducing time in general. What we're gonna do instead is something even better. All we're gonna do is just apply what all the other diets did, because now you know how they lost weight, Be in a calorie deficit, as simple as that. Because we know that due to the first laws of thermodynamics, matter cannot be created nor destroyed. So if you have 0 calorie beverages, you can't create calories out of nothing. For this reason alone, we're gonna go online for an online calculator. Remember, these are estimates. You're never gonna exactly know whether the online calculator is gonna know your exact body weight or your maintenance in calories. We just use this as a baseline and then we fine tune it as we go along. Or you could just multiply your body weight by 10 to 12 per pound. I think this number is probably just easier for most people. This is just a good starting guideline right here. For an example, let's say you weigh 200 pounds. So now to immediately get into a calorie deficit, you're gonna multiply your body weight anywhere from 10 to 12. You're consuming anywhere from 2,000 to 2,200 calories per day. What I like to do is actually take my body weight, multiply it by 15, 200-pound man times 15, he's 2,500 calories for maintenance. And then we take the 2,500 calories and multiply anywhere from 10 to 25%. Whatever number or range you pick, minus that from his maintenance. And we use this number as more of a specific guideline because anything above you might be a little too aggressive, so you might be losing more muscle than body fat. Anything less, it might be too slow, so you might end up losing your sanity first before you actually start seeing the results and you start questioning whether it's actually working or not. So a calorie deficit, if you use the maintenance one, minus anywhere from 10 to 25%. If you do 10% of 2,500, 2,250 calories per day. That's how we would start off. All right guys, step number 2, we need to stop under eating protein. We need to make a huge change in your relationship to protein. It needs to be friendly, it needs to be loving, it needs to be caring, because it's gonna do the same thing for you and your body when it comes back around. If you ever done a diet in the past and you weren't happy with it, maybe because you did lose some weight, but it wasn't the look you wanted, it's more likely than not because you got to type of body fat that we in the fitness industry describe as skinny fat. People lose body fat, or they try to lose body fat, they end up losing majority of it being muscle. And when you do that, you have higher levels of body fat and lower levels of muscle mass. So you attain that skinny fat look. So you just look smaller than you originally were. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So instead, we're going to keep our protein intake high. We've seen these in multiple studies, anywhere from 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you have a 200-pound individual, he's consuming anywhere from 140 to 200 grams of protein just so he can keep and hold on to his muscle while he's losing body fat. So 140 to 200 grams of protein is what he should be consuming just to maintain muscle mass, because that's also gonna help to increase muscle protein synthesis. I personally like to shoot on the higher end. Sometimes I'll take my body weight and multiply by 1.2. This protein has a satiating effect, depending on where you start and how you end. Majority of the time, just like consuming more protein. Step number 3, we're gonna stop avoiding resistance training. Bear with me on this. So all the things you learned in the past about lifting weight, you're gonna look big, bulky, much like the bodybuilders like Arnold did back in the day, completely wrong. When you do resistance training, you're gonna increase muscle protein synthesis just like keeping your protein intake high. And when we do that, we have a better body composition. How extremely difficult it is to look like any of the old school bodybuilders or even bodybuilders nowadays based on muscle insertions, the muscle belly, their genetics, any enhancements that they might be taking, their diet, their time frame to do this. Everybody has different schedules, different lifestyles. Also, we would like to do this naturally, because when we do it naturally, we could do this for the rest of our lives or majority of our lives, and we can live sustainable, happier lives with our families, friends, going on adventures, parks, just enjoying a breakfast meal without any aches and pains anywhere in our body. Well, we can try to limit it as much as we can. So we're gonna do hard sets of resistance training. Resistance training includes cables, dumbbells, barbells, and bodyweight exercises like push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. When we train hard, we give our body a reason to hold on to as much muscle as possible while dieting, and that's what we want. We want to lose majority of the weight coming from body fat and not from the muscle. If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. Minimum of hard sets of resistance training would be anywhere from 10 to 20 sets per week. So 10 to 20 sets a week per muscle. So if you do chest Monday, 5 sets, hard sets of dumbbell presses, then Thursday comes and you're recovered, you feel great, you slept great, you have no aching muscles, they're not sore in any matter. Then you can do another 5 more hard sets of push-ups, Smith machine incline presses, whatever your choice is. A few more other keys, what we wanna do is anywhere from 5 to 30 reps, even up to 40 reps I like to do for push-ups. Close to failure, if not to failure, because that's what we consider hard sets in the fitness industry. Fully lengthen the muscle. As soon as you start the movement, let's say in a push-up or a bicep curl, that's when you're really fully lengthening the muscle. And it should be challenging in that fully lengthened position. So when we're here, should be challenging the most, which it is because you're using your body weight. You have some type of resistance. Same idea with a pull-up. So now you have your body weight pulling down on you. So we're gonna use these guidelines, be able to set up your own program. So if you were to work out 2 days a week, full body days, because that's how you can hit the muscle twice. Step number 4, we're gonna stop ignoring the importance of tracking food and weight. You need to take the action, not just think about how you're gonna fix it. There's 2 parts to it. Now, we don't have to track food and weight. You don't. It's the same idea with budgeting. You don't have to track how much money you make and how much you spend. But if you can do that consistently and you do it all the time, one of those months, you're gonna end up spending more than you earn, and that's gonna be a really difficult month for you. Same idea applies. You don't have to track the food or weight, but to get the most accurate measure, and to be consistent, we're gonna do this. When we track our food, we're gonna use 2 different apps. Either we're gonna use, we have either MyFitnessPal or MacroFactor. My favorite is MyFitnessPal. Very used to it, it's been out for years. Some might have more benefits than the others. MacroFactor, I'm not sure if you could scan food or not. MyFitnessPal, if you get the basic version, you can't scan the food, so you have to kind of input everything in. Some tips when we track our food. When you track food, anything, we need to weigh it raw and dry. Remember, when we track anything raw or dry, we should be weighing. Let's take an example for rice. If you throw rice in a rice cooker, you need to throw water in it. The rice is going to absorb the water, so the rice is gonna end up weighing more afterwards. You can weigh it afterwards, but you're just gonna get skewed results. You're not gonna be as accurate as you can if you just weighed it prior. Same thing with chicken breasts. If you cook chicken breasts and you weigh it afterwards, the chicken breast, the water in the chicken breast is gonna start to evaporate. It's gonna lose its water content, so it's gonna weigh less afterwards. So that is why it's always important to weigh the food raw. And if you guys have trouble doing that, I have an online fitness program down below. Check it out if you need that help tracking. Now, when we're tracking our weight, this is what your weight's gonna look like. Your weight is not gonna be linear. When we start losing weight, it's going to keep fluctuating day by day based on different aspects. Like sodium's gonna hold on to water. Water retention from the inflammation caused by intense exercises when you work out. Every gram of carbohydrate holds 2 to 3 grams of water. That doesn't mean you should eliminate it, just it's telling you that that's what it holds. Including sleep, if your sleep is messed up one day. So all these different things will have your weight just keep fluctuating. But the most important part is that you hit those new weekly lows every week, or we want to track at least consistently. The best ways to track your weight is to track in the morning. We're going to grab a weight scale, step on the weight scale. This is gonna be before breakfast with minimal clothing on after you go to the bathroom. This is to get the most accurate measure. Most people like to weigh themselves in the gym or just later on the day. Your results are definitely gonna skew because you probably already ate, you worked out, it's never gonna be the same. So to get a more accurate measure, we're gonna do it in the morning. Second, fabric tape to measure your waist circumference. So at your belly button, just make sure you use the same measurement in the same area every single time. Waist circumference is a big indicator of whether we're actually losing fat or not. Next one. Physical changes in the mirror. So sometimes the weight might stay the same, but when you look at yourself in the mirror and you notice that maybe your arms are a little more toned up, you could see your abs popping out a little bit, that's a good indicator of whether you're actually losing fat or not as well. So sometimes the weight scale won't tell you specifically whether you're losing body fat. So that's why I like to look at physical changes in the mirror. You can always take a picture of yourself, just like everybody else does. Take a picture of yourself and keep that on you, and then maybe in the next week or two, you could see those changes from week to week. Clothing. Sometimes your clothes might be fitting a little bit more loose, or maybe a little bit more tight in your arms, a little bit more maybe tight in your thighs because now you're working them out. Use how your clothes fit you just as much. Maybe your jeans are looser around the waist. And just a bonus tip, if you're getting compliments by random people you haven't seen in a while, that's a really good indicator as well. We're gonna use all these variables, guys, not just one, to track whether we're losing actual body fat or not. We don't wanna rely on one measure. One measure isn't gonna be completely accurate. We're not gonna overdo it this time. I know what it feels like to be overweight, unhealthy, and it really taking a toll on you, your life, maybe your relationship with your family, your friends, hanging out with your kids, your nephews, your nieces. But this time is completely different. Now we know, or we have a good idea of how to lose body fat correctly. So for that reason, we're not gonna put too much pressure on ourselves this time around, and we're gonna take it slow and easy. Remember, we're working smarter, we're not working harder. So in which case, we're gonna lose anywhere from 0.5 to 1% of body weight, 0.5 to 1% of body weight lost each week. Most general guidelines we use because this can help preserve muscle mass as we diet down. We don't want to go too extremely fast because we don't want to jump into metabolic adaptation. We don't want that to happen. We just kind of want this to be a slow and steady race, to be more enjoyable than it is torture. Step number 6, we're going to work smarter, not harder. All right, guys, when I say we're working smarter and not harder, I'm speaking in regards to how aggressive the cut should be. This time around, if we're not losing weight aggressively as much as we want to lose, we're not gonna just shoot off the boat and cut 1,000 calories right off our diet. That's not the smart approach. And if you do it, it's not gonna be sustainable and you're gonna end up looking worse than you think you do. If you're already at the top of the mountain, you're already cutting all the stuff you need to, there's nowhere else to go. You already cut all the calories you need. You're eating such a small amount of foods that you can't even cut the calories any further or sustain it any longer. So now you're just stuck at a body weight. If you're progressively losing body fat, you're not gonna notice it day by day. You're more so gonna notice it every week, every 2 weeks, knowing that you're tracking everything accurately, your weight and your food. So we have 2 options to go from here. We either cut the calories by another 10 to 25%, or sometimes my favorite, because I don't like reducing my calories and I don't like eating less, increase the cardio. So certain cardio can include jump roping, high intensity exercise, include jogging. My favorite, the most least stressful on your body from what I've seen, my experience and coaching my clients, walking on an incline. What I normally like to do is increase my heart rate 110 to 130 beats per minute, which could mean kind of doing a fast pace walk or a slow jog from a 12.0 or higher. The speed is at 3.6 to 4.2, so it's more metabolically taxing on your body to walk on an incline than it is on a flat surface. Lastly, the duration is going to be anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. We start off with 20 minutes, do it 2 to 3 times a week, and then we increase it further from there. I usually keep everything else the same and just increase the duration. And then I'll increase the frequency each week. Start off by doing my diet 2 days a week of cardio. Will be after I work out on a separate day or 6 hours between. That's the cardio. Twice a week. We start off at 20 minutes. If our weight stalls out and we just want to increase the cardio, we increase the duration. Or we increase the frequency each week. So either or. Second option, we cut the calories by 10 to 25%. The only way to lose fat, because your body's eventually gonna adapt to your body mass that you're at right now, is to either cut the calories or cut the cardio. Step number 7, we're going to stop buying every single supplement. because one, we're wasting our money, and two, we're wasting our time. Instead, we're just gonna focus on a few that are actually credible in the fitness industry. First one, the most clinically researched supplement in the fitness industry, creatine monohydrate. This is gonna help build strength and muscle in the gym. Definitely one of the best ones, honestly, out there. Other ones I like to include, fish oil is very important for me, helps to decrease inflammation, improve mood, possibly muscle recovery, so I always include fish oil. I make sure it's third-party tested for purity reasons, and I'll take anywhere from 3 to 4 grams a day. Vitamin D3, this is essentially more important if you live in the northern altitudes, if you have darker skin, or if you're always indoors. This can definitely have a profound effect on your mood. This is also in relation to helping build strong bones. And anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 I use a day. I use the same brand, it's Nordic, under fish oil and vitamin D, and I say it because if I buy it, and then you guys buy it, it can stay on the shelves. Whey protein, essentially important only if you can't consume enough protein in per day. So protein is an issue, you can't consume it every single day, and you know it's gonna help you with your body composition goals. Better ones to choose are either hydrolyzed or isolate, because it's better in digestibility if you have a lactose intolerant issue. You have to test and try for yourself. This is not medical advice. Another important one, I always include caffeine. I think caffeine's essentially important for people that work out in the morning because it kind of fast forwards your biological clock and could help increase alertness and mood as well. The most important thing is to remember that 80 to 90% of how you're gonna look primarily through your diet. The other 10, 20% is gonna be your resistance training, your cardio, supplements, your sleep, your water intake. All of that comes into play as well, but your diet is definitely the most important part. Step number 8, we're gonna stop blaming others, including yourself. We have to acknowledge that through all the misinformation that you might have heard and you got to this point, you can't blame other people, can't even blame yourself, because we've all been to that point, bought bogus programs, bogus supplements in the past. That's really the best way you learn. If you don't do it and you don't fail, you're never gonna know what it takes to succeed, really. So now, because you have a better logical, ethical understanding of how to lose body fat, we're gonna apply this as best as we can. Now, you don't have to be specific to get onto whatever goal weight you wanna do. If you're 200 pounds, you wanna get down to 175, but by the time you get to 185, 180, this is the way you wanna look. Enough said, you're done with dieting. You can go back to maintenance, start building muscle, and even in a calorie surplus, and then just do it all over again with more muscle. And then every single year, as you keep building more muscle and losing more body weight, you just keep progressively looking better. This is generally the most realistic time frame if I were to go from 30% body fat to 10% body fat. It's gonna depend on you, your weight, your age, your gender, your genetics, but a good standard guideline for a regular diet, anywhere from 8 to 16 weeks. And I say this duration because anything less than 8 weeks, sometimes you don't see enough progress to really enjoy the diet or to see the results. And anything longer than 16 weeks, you're probably putting a lot more metabolic stress on your body, in which case you're gonna lose motivation, your sleep's gonna start to be affected, you're gonna stall out in body weight, and the really big thing is you're gonna start losing the motivation, your recovery's gonna get worse, you're gonna increase your risk for injury in the gym. So I like to base it off of you, your recovery, where you're at in body weight, how happy you are, your mood, your sleep, and how much lower you would like to go between calories. If you feel comfortable enough at your body weight to stick around for it for a little bit, then go to maintenance and then just do the dieting all over again. But it's really just dependent on you. And that's the most realistic time frame I can really give you guys. Remember guys, good things take time with this. All that weight you gained wasn't in a few weeks to a few months. It was probably progressively over time. So you need to be easy on yourself this time around and understand that it might take a while, it might take a few breaks, but at least you know what you're doing this time and you're gonna apply it in real life. 80 to 90% of the negative thoughts you have or might have during this dieting phase, life in general, probably never come true. So always be kind to yourself.